Hello and welcome to the video. This video is going to be a side-by-side comparison of these three Dragmaster chassis. Side note, Dragmaster is the manufacturer or the maker of the chassis and not a designated model. So they're all three Dragmasters, but they're all of a different make or model year. So there is some differences, and that's what we're going to go over today. This video kind of stems from my research into creating a more accurate Mooneyes Dragster, as well as this discussion or statement that these are all three the same has shown up on the Facebook groups. It showed up like 3 or 4 times in a matter of a week or two, and I had put out some slideshows on the Facebook groups, and now I thought, hey, let's put this into video form and put it up on YouTube, so everybody can see the differences there. So let me get these all situated and we'll get into the video. Okay, we're going to start off with the red chassis that most people call it, and that is a part number of C1121, and then the Atlantis Mooneyes there in the primer color, but that is also the same as the Revell molded in yellow chassis, either in parts pack forms or in kit forms. On the post I had made the mention that I believe that the red chassis was first and then was followed up with the Mooneyes iteration later on, and the man himself, Mr. James Keeler, had chimed in to confirm that that was the case, so that was nice to have that confirmation and further stamp on this comparison. But let's get into the comparison. We'll start front to back, and I'll throw in the photos as well. I don't know which would be easier to see, but starting off here up front is that axle mount. If you can tell that the red chassis has a lower mounting point than the Mooneyes, and that would accommodate a drop axle versus the Atlantis kit and Revell kits come with a straight axle, although the drop axle would be the more appropriate axle style for the replica Mooneyes car. And that's essentially what started me on this whole comparison and chase after these chassis, was looking for a drop axle for the Mooneyes or a different mounting location, which ended up with the Attempt 1 chassis and this red chassis. But moving on from there, we'll see here in the middle of the Mooneyes, it does have mounting locations for the engine plate, and then it is bare on the red one. But if you look forward to that red one, there is a mounting hole location there. Just take note of that. We'll get back to that later. And sliding back, you can see there is some taller uprights on this red chassis as opposed to the Mooneyes chassis. So it gives us a taller hood or taller sides. And then moving back from that, you can see there is a single bar upright on the red one and a double bar upright on the Mooneyes. This second edition one is actually a separate piece that gets added on. So if you didn't want that when you bought the Atlantis kit, you could surely go without it. But the double bar is appropriate for the Mooneyes rail car. But I think that covers it as far as these pieces. So let's move on to, I guess we'll talk about those hood sides since they are taller. Here's that comparison. If I can hold these. There you can see the extension or the deletion, however you want to talk about it, to accommodate that height difference. And we'll move on to the actual hood, or kind of the cowling. But there's actually a length difference between these two. Pretty noticeable length difference. So the red one is actually taller and longer, which is going to create a completely different look. And then another addition here is that firewall. You can kind of see the Mooneyes has some kind of cut ins, where the red one maintains that squarish pattern. And there you can see the difference. It does have that extra height added in, as well it isn't notched in like the Mooneyes. This dash piece is identical between the two. And kind of one other note on the body is that the Mooneyes comes with a floorboard, where the red one does not. So it would be open underneath the chassis. This torsion bar in the front is the same between the two, so there's no difference there. And then we can kind of get into the cross member. Kind of get these out of the way. Cross members. The Mooneyes car is set up with this X member, and the red one has just a straight across mount there. So that's what mounted into that hole that we noted earlier. So that is a big difference there. And I think that will actually cover it between these two. And then I will get the Mooneyes set up next to the Attempt 1 car. Okay, now that we got these two paired up, these are, again, both Dragmasters. They are similar, but there's going to be quite a few differences. But a lot of people had claimed that they were the same, so that's why they're getting involved here. But we'll start off again at the front and move our way back. I don't know which is going to be the best angle here, but get these lined up better. But there again, this blue chassis has a lower axle mounting point and kind of a totally different style mounting and bracketry. And that's what initially started me off on this Attempt 1, is noticing that it has a drop axle and lower axle mounting point. But as we'll see, there is significant differences and really not in the Mooneyes equation, but it is still a cool 60s drag chassis. And then we can look at those torsion bars. They are of totally different design. The Attempt 1 kind of mounts up in front of the caging where the chassis work, where the Mooneyes runs flush. And they are a separate piece on the Attempt 1, originally chrome, but they're de-chromed in this situation. But I think that kind of covers that, and we'll move back into the engine mounting area. As you can see, both of these have significantly different mounting pattern styles, so their engine plates wouldn't be exactly interchangeable. And again, sliding back, you can look at that top bar. This has some hood differences on top that will alter our hood mounting styles. And then moving back to the hoop, although they are both a double hoop, the Attempt 1 is a taller, so you can see it from the back. There you can see it's a much taller hoop, main hoop, as well as they actually start off of the chassis, I guess you'd call it sooner or closer to the front. So they are forward, but then have a steeper angle later. And you can see that they have a completely different style arch. The Mooneyes being very broad, almost parallel to the chassis, and the Attempt 1 being very tapered, narrower and taller. So although there's a lot of bars that are the same, they are quite different. And then underneath the Attempt 1, it does have this kind of extra mounting plate for the kind of capsule that it goes inside of for the Attempt 1 car, as well as it has this push bar protrusion, which the Mooneyes has neither of that. And this Mooneyes has a kind of a lower bar here, so it might give it an overall height similarity. They're kind of coming off at different areas, but I think that more or less covers these. Again, that big distinction in that the upper main hoops is pretty noticeable. And I think that's kind of tells you that these chassis aren't the same, but we will go over the differences anyways. We'll kind of go back to those hood sides. Obviously, pretty noticeable difference. Let me grab the actual same sides. Get a comparison there. Kind of match these up for height. They're the same for there, so you could Could trim off that portion if you needed a replacement side. That covers that. And then the hoods. Again, these two are the same or similar. Although the Mooneyes is that two-piece, where the Attempt 1 comes molded as a single piece. So that's maybe a feature that is preferred. And then talk about the firewalls. Firewalls come out similar, but again, kind of completely different. Where this firewall goes way down the sides around the bell housing. And it has that extra notch there, but that kind of covers that. And we can kind of look at the cross bracing. Although they look very similar, I think I'll just pop up the picture and we'll kind of talk over the picture, but they are of different lengths. The Mooneyes being longer, and then the mounting point is not central as it is on the Attempt 1, which is going to create a different length mounting bars up front. And we can get into those mounting bars. Again, we noticed that the axles were different, but these kind of wishbones, the eyelet's broken off this one, but I'll pull these up. You can see it's got some extra curvature there in the Mooneyes, as well as the mounting style is completely different, as well as the axles. Again, that Mooneyes having that straight axle, and the Attempt 1 having a dropped axle design. And I think that will do it for this. If you guys have any questions, make sure to hit me up in the comments, and I'll try to get anything answered there, or maybe some other members can answer anything that I'm not aware of. But that should do it for our extensive comparison between these three Dragmaster chassis. Again, although they are all named Dragmaster, they are all different. So with that being said, thanks for watching.